Welcome to the Robcast. This is a show about Oakville, the people that live, work, and do business here. Excited about our guest today. This is Umair Zia. He is the owner of Baton, Rouge, and Oakville's newest restaurant, Bo.Vine. You're not going to want to miss this.
It's the Robcast podcast. He's with you for the next hour or 20 minutes. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. Here he is. It's Rob Raham.
Umair, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey Rob, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so let me get into this here because your story is an interesting one. But let's pull it back. Most restaurateurs, they started somewhere, and it usually involves dishes. So was that your case? And explain how that whole thing started.
You know what? I think everybody underestimates the dishwashers. I think they're the heart of the house.
Lifeblood, right?
Lifeblood, exactly. They see everything. They see the servers, they see the tension, they see the stress, and I think I did that quite well, starting in Baton Rouge in Mississauga, and during the Christmas season. And
high stress season.
Yeah. They just recently had opened, and it was a nightmare, and I hear everybody screaming, yelling. I'm like, oh my God, this is what did I get myself into? And the person actually got me the job. He's like, and I was like all over the place as a kid, young kid, 16 year old, and he goes, hey, do not leave this place. You keep this job.
Okay.
And guess what? I still have that job.
So did he kind of help to kind of guide you? Was he an owner at the time,
no,
or a manager?
I think it was a training company, the training crew that came in.
Yeah.
And they're looking for staff and everything else. So I brought in by friend of a friend and everything else. They say, hey, listen, they're looking for dishwashers. You're interested? I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to do this, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just give it a try. I need some cash. So that's why I walked in.
Yeah.
And just before I walked in, he goes, hey, don't screw this up.
Nice.
Don't disappoint me.
Yeah, my first job here. Okay, great. Let's go.
So I got in, and I was like, you know what? No problem. Busiest day. I think it was a Saturday or something.
Just covered in water and soap.
Covered, and I'm like, could I really do this? And
it's always a first day as a dishwasher. Exactly. If you get through that.
Me by myself. There's no other dishwasher. I got the dishes piled up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and the guy, and there's one manager, Calvin, I don't know, and he keeps just saying, hey, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you got to make sure you clean the dishes, change the water, and everything else. I'm like, I have no idea how to do this.
Yeah.
I really need you to show me. So the guy was really nice, great guy, showed me how to do it, and I kid you not, I did not leave that place until 2 o'clock in the morning that day.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was, but you know what? I learned a lot that day.
Yeah. So explain to me, because a lot of the transition usually is, okay, now you become a line cook or you become this. It sounds like you kind of took a different direction. It sounds like someone kind of saw more people skills with you. So explain that transition of how you kind of came to be what ended up being a regional manager for.
Yeah. So I think it was I moved all the position into the line and everything else, and they knew I had some social, I was just talking a lot and everything else. And one of the managers, she's like, hey, listen, would you ever be interested in doing the expediting and stuff like that? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I started doing that. And then
and how long was that from your first day to that point?
Oh, I would say it took at least 3 years.
Okay, 3 years. Okay, good. Yeah,
really
so you did your time.
Yeah, I did 2-3 years. Work from line cook to salad, grill cook.
Yeah.
And then I started, expo, and then threw me into serving, bartending. And I'm like, okay, great. So just moved my way up in those ranks, and then I just had that one thing, I just wanted to talk to people. Mm-hmm. And I was always there, hey, you need something else, whatever, I can come in on my day off. I'll do whatever you need. I'll just, bartend. It's just, I really needed that.
Yeah.
And I think I got into it so well. I had good following, good guests, recovery and everything else. And then they're like, oh, yeah, maybe you should supervise some days. I'm like, I don't know. I rather like the money.
Yeah, sure. Tips, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it was great at that time. And that's how I got into front of the house, and they just pushed me into Mississauga in serving, supervising, and bartending as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, I think in a lot of different corporations, what's important is if you have a person who understands each different position, from dishwasher to the bartender to the front of house, and their understanding of how they interact with each other, that's incredibly valuable to a corporation that someone has that knowledge. So explain to me how you made that next jump to kind of the regional manager then.
Okay, so the way I made it, so there were some changes in ownerships. Mississauga closed down, I think, early 2010 or something. And before that, there was Baton Rouge and Oakville. It was struggling through because didn't have the right franchisees. The corporate,
this is what Winston Park, right?
Yeah,
like
Winston Park, where I am now. So I think there was a head office team that came in Mississauga because it got taken over by a head office.
Right.
And they realized that, you know what, I had this great skill that I knew everything about it, and say, hey, Umair, we need like a really, really good kitchen manager in Oakville. And we're taking over that as a corporate store. And it's, it really needs that leadership and that
the experience of experience of the success of the other
staff
one,
morale. Like you really need to build that staff morale. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you guys need.
What a great opportunity, yeah.
So then I think they just brought me into Oakville as a kitchen manager, and then worked my way into it, fixed a lot of things, and then the current general manager at that time in Baton Rouge, Oakville, when the corporate took over after the franchisee, it was. I
remember there was a tough situation.
The Oakville community had the worst reputation of a restaurant, and it'd probably be the Baton Rouge Oakville.
That's right. Yeah.
So that was before, and I think, he got promoted into a regional manager, and then they're like, "Hey, listen, we're looking for like an interim GM because we can't find it. We really need this area manager to step into a role. Would you be interested because you have the front of the house experience?" I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a try.
Sure.
And I'm saying, you know what? Let's do it. So I did, and I took over in like September, and just going into the busy season, I'm like let's give me a support, whatever. And then I think it was one of the best year in sales they had because I moved a few things. I knew serving, bartending. I'm like, listen, guys, we need to focus on this.
Yeah.
And I think from there, realized, hey, listen, this kid can do this. And I was still young. I was like, okay, man, like. I don't know, this GM role in corporate restaurant. So I think that's how I got into it. And moved my way up. And then after a couple of years, I worked there as a GM. And then they had some change. Baton Rouge really needed that one thing about the franchisees. There were certain franchisees in the brand that were, not the right fit. So I think the head office took over quite a few locations as corporate. Mm-hmm. And, they asked me, hey, Umair, we really need you to kind of oversee a few of these locations. Some were changing ownership, some were in, really not the right operations. So I think that's when I got into it.
Yeah.
And there was a time that I was like, I had recently in 2013, I got married. And I was about to go for my honeymoon, and I was like, okay. And one of my brand leader calls me. He's like, hey, Umair, I really need this help. We have this situation, and I really need you to do this.
Oh no!
And I'll do whatever you want. I'm like, okay. I'm like, listen, I'm about to go. Like, I got married. I just got married.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day was like I'm meeting a trustee in a restaurant, and he goes, "It's your birthday today." I'm like, yes.
Oh, jeez.
And he's like, you're just coming back? I'm like, yes. I'm like,
the reality of a restaurateur, right? Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but in restaurant industry, nobody celebrates his birthdays. This is just, it's normal. He's like, yeah. I'm like, but the one thing, he's like, yeah, I heard about you getting married. You were going on a honeymoon. Really appreciate you coming in and taking over this restaurant. And I think at that time I was running Baton Rouge, Oakville still, downtown location. Young and Dundas, Eaton Center, and I was running North York location at that time.
Wow.
So I was like all over the place.
Hand grenades.
So I was like tired. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do this too. So I did, and I think after that, they realized that I had so many different skills of multi-unit. And back in 2014, by the end of that whole transitions. When they sold it out to the franchisees, the right franchisees, they asked me, hey, listen, I think I'm like, do I have a job now? Like,
Yeah.
I really did whatever. They're like, yeah, no problem. And I think they promoted me to be the regional manager, business development manager for Baton Rouge in GTA.
Yeah.
And they gave me Ottawa region as well at that time. And so that's how I got into.
Yeah. So what was the transition of obviously you've learned a ton. You have more experience. Obviously, corporations love that you have all that experiences. How did you make the jump from kind of the manager in a corporate world to an actual franchisee or owner?
So, funny story. I think it was, then they sold the Baton Rouge Oakville to a franchisee in 2013, 2014. And he really, really had no intentions of running it. I think it was more of really screwing it up.
Yeah.
And I think there was like human rights tribunal issues and so many issues with that restaurant. And I think the head office really, second time around in Baton Rouge Oakville, took over, closed the restaurant.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think a great CEO at that time, it was owned by investor Frank Hennessy. And he was like, okay, this is it. We're going to make sure none of these franchisees ever exist in our brand.
Yeah.
And I think it was like, we really kind of, I went back in, he's like, okay, what do we need to do in this brand? And I think there was a brand leader meeting and everyone else like, hey, what do we need to do? Do we just close it and walk off this deal? Because it had two bad franchisees now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think this still has a heart. I think the restaurant still has thing. I think the community is strong. I think we have a good product. We just need to tweak quite service and experience, guest experience.
Yeah.
And we need to put the right operator. And he's looking at me the whole time. He's like, I'll make that. Like, I don't know what he was thinking at that time. And I walked out of the meeting. I think the next day I get a call. It's like, hey, Umair, come in. And I think we're going to do a deal that, you could become a partner, minority, and, we'll see. And we're going to renovate it. I'm like, okay, no problem. And I'm like, but when you renovate it, you got to renovate it right. Mm-hmm. You got to focus in the back of the house because this is where we need, the brand needs innovations in towards the back of the house, also front of the house. Yes, you need to take care of both.
Yeah.
You can't just go in and just
flash it up in the front.
Yeah. And the guys in the back, it's just not really.
Right.
So
that's a unique approach because a lot of people focus in the front. That's
and I
the
said,
front. That's where
if
the
that
guests
is
come.
the case, I will do it, and I'll do it 100%. And I think we need to put technology in. We need to figure out a lot of this stuff. And I don't know if you remember the chit system. And I'm like, I hated that chit system. Just chits coming up, and I was like,
it starts to curl at one point.
Curl up, and then everybody's screaming and yelling. Oh, I need this. I need this. And I was like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, the guests should not know what's going on in the back. Like, you don't want to have a screaming match going on between the expo, the assembler, the grill cook.
Yeah.
So because these are open concept
Where's my
kitchens,
steak? I need my asparagus. I know.
These are open concept kitchens, you know. So I think that's when I got into it, and then I'm like, listen, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. Yeah. And then we did. He listened and he said, no problem, but you're the man. You just got to see it through.
So you held your own on what you wanted to make this restaurant successful, and obviously to this day it has been. And so you've been in this great position. You've had success. Talk to me about. You've been all over. You've seen all these different restaurants in Mississauga, Ottawa. What's special about Winston Park, and why did you feel this is where you wanted to be?
I think it has a lot to do with the community. I was a general manager earlier, and I knew, with all the issues this has, from human rights and this and that, all of these things.
The previous owners
and everything else, the community still came out and supported. And I said, okay, what do I need to do? I just got to make sure I get connected with the, charities and do a lot of those things. And just forget about being Baton Rouge as a chain restaurant and run this as you call those mama papa shops.
Yeah.
And really focus on the guest experience, and have managers touch tables. On Saturdays, touch tables and everything else. And that's what we did. I mentioned to all my managers, and hey, listen, this is it. I just need you to go wow guests.
Yeah.
That's all your job is, forget about.
So I mean, it's one of the challenges I think that these corporate chains have is there's no heart or personality to it. So it sounds like you made it a focus to change that.
Exactly, and I think that's how I got into it. And I think it was just, sometimes could you just everybody's like all over the place where the guests have an issue over cooked steak, undercooked steak. But what about the guest that comes and supports you every single time? They've been there. They're quiet. They don't say anything. They're like, focus on those guests.
The
loyalty. And just, it's just sometimes you just walk up to the guests. Hey, really thanks for coming in. Great to have you and everything else. You know what? Really want to take care of your appetizers today. Or you know what? The dessert's on us today.
Yeah.
I think a lot of restaurants miss that opportunity.
They do.
And I think if we started focusing on that is a very, very good way of marketing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really...
It's a lost art, really, is the human interaction, isn't it?
And I think... And the staff.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. You can't forget about the staff. If your staff is... drilling them in the back or drilling them in the dish area, drilling them in everywhere, it resonates on their expressions on the floor. You want to walk into a restaurant where everybody's having fun, great time. It's a great ambience.
Yeah.
I think that's where I was like, okay, guys, let's just have fun. Just whatever your stress is outside, problems you have, whatever, leave it outside. Just when you come to work, have fun.
What a great approach.
And I think just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Like, if you hate coming to work, you're going to hate your life, you're gonna hate everything else,
and ultimately your clients are gonna have not a good experience.
Exactly, right? And in a restaurant, your home is your second home. Your restaurant is your first home because you spend more time as an owner in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And how could you neglect your own home?
Yeah, great
point. The guests
point.
that coming in their restaurant are your guests. You treat them same way. You should treat them the same way you would treat them as they're coming to your own house.
Awesome point. Let me ask you this. I mean, Oakville and the Winston Park area was, when it was created, almost 20, 25 years ago now, maybe longer, was supposed to be like the entertainment capital area of Oakville. And for those who are watching, I mean, what used to be the AMC, this is located just at the northwest corner of Winston Churchill and QEW, now the Cineplex Odeon. I mean, it's had a lot of changeover over the years. A lot of these places now, obviously Baton Rouge is one of the longest standings in there now, I think, of all the places.
Yeah.
Right? And so is it still this, we're going for dinner and a movie? Or have you been able to shift that to, people just coming just for dinner and it's not about the movie or doing anything else there? Because that's a challenge, I think. Because obviously Netflix and all these other things have changed the movie-going experience. Is that still the main driver for your clientele?
I don't think so anymore.
Okay.
I think there are, obviously the movie business has been, all over the place. Shifted. But I think it's more of a, special occasions, corporate parties, host corporate lunches. So there's a lot of mix of it. I don't think it's more of a main driven in the movies and movies, and I think we have Putting Edge, indoor skydiving, and Dave & Buster's now in there. So I think their entertainment is getting there, but mostly I think people are going into these places because they know the restaurant, they know what the food they're going to get, the service they're going to get. So I think more shifting towards that.
So it sounds too like, the difference that you took was you went into the community. You went outside of what is kind of an island there, right? Yeah. It's kind of a concrete jungle. It's not like you're walking downtown Oakville and there's a mom and pop shops all along there. So it's a different kind of beast. And it sounds like you've had success with it. What drew you to say, I want to do now this on my own? I've got an idea, and the development of BoVine. Tell me about that.
I think I love burgers. Okay, I love burgers. I think
me too.
I've been craving a really good place where I can go in and have a good burger, a great ambiance, and great cocktails. I want to go to cocktail. There's limited spots, and I always end up going downtown for a great cocktail and everything else.
Sure.
I think BoVine was something that I always walked by that place, the movie theater. And I was like, this is a great spot. If somebody wants to go,
it's the wild. It used to be Wild Wings, right? Yes. So it's like right in the heart of that center spot.
And I think it was like never just focused on, right, by the owners, whoever they were.
Yeah.
I think, and I was like, this is a great spot. If somebody wants to go to movies in Oakville, and grab a nice cocktail and really kind of just have a quick bite and run into the movies. Because majority of the time when you go to the movies, you never kind of time yourself well.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I was like, I have only 5 minutes left, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes.
And a lot of these places don't take reservations.
Exactly.
You just show up, you might have a 20-minute wait, right?
Yeah, so I'm just like, you know what? I want to really do a nice Wagyu smash burger and a really good one and really good cocktails, but at the same time, do really good shareables. Because you know what? You're not just coming there for a burger.
Right.
You're coming there for like a really good appetizer, shareable, and a good cocktail. And you know what? Walk into the movies.
Yeah.
You're not going to be disappointed. After the movies, you're like, hey, what do I want to do? A really good dessert or a scratch kitchen dessert. We make those desserts from home, like in-house. And walk into Bo.Vine and kind of just like, hey, just a dessert and a cocktail.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, for all the entrepreneurs out there watching, like, who are kind of in a corporate world or wherever they are, they're kind of maxed, they can't go to a certain spot. And like, what was the step that you said, I'm going to step out of this and I'm going to make my own thing? Like, what kind of was the inspiration for that? I mean, obviously you want a good burger and things, but it's a big change. You don't have a company above helping you financially. And so explain that, like, that kind of big leap of faith that you took there.
I think it's the price points. I think in franchise world, we really don't have control of the pricing.
Okay.
I think with all of that, everything changes, with the economy and everything else, inflation, everything's gone up. I wanted to do that, a place where, it's not overpriced. It's really good value and good quality food. I think it still exists out there. You just got to make sure that your overhead costs are adjusted, so you can provide that to a consumer. And that's how I kind of like. I really need a place where you don't worry about the bank and everything else, but you're gonna have a great time. And I picked the right staff. I think my staff at BoVine are just like handpicked of like the best of the best,
Yeah.
But great staff. I think I'm blessed to have Baton Rouge and BoVine, great staff. I think I'm one of the luckiest guys in the restaurant industry because I would not be here without them.
Yeah, I mean, we've had other people in all facets of business, but especially the restaurants, is the staff has to be an extension of you.
Exactly.
Right, and without that, there's that big disconnect. So it sounds like you've got all the right pieces in place now.
Yeah, honestly, I think that staffing and family too. It's very important because you know what, in restaurants, you're working, and everybody else is partying, and your wife's like, well, what's going on here? It's really hard to manage that. And I give my credit to my wife. I know I've got 2 lovely kids. And she balanced that really for me. Yeah. Because I miss out a lot of those times with them.
Yeah.
But I think it's that drive in restaurants. It kind of gets you motivated.
There's a rush to it for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what we do
Saturday
it for.
Saturday night, you're doing this and everything else.
So, I mean, explain to us this process. You open this door to this space. You've got this concept. You walk in and see this old restaurant that you now want to make it your own. What is that process like, and what was part of the vision of the construction part to that whole end of your business?
So I think the vision was to do a really nice up-class cocktail place with serving good smash burgers and good appetizers. You remember, like, the Wild Wings that was there, it's in Oakville, one of the prestigious, like, the movie theater, like, actually the busiest movie theater in Oakville. And you walk in and you right in front of the door, you see this Wild Wings, and it's like, never been taken care of, the wires hanging out, the wallpaper. And I'm like, this is such a amazing spot.
Yeah. It's almost a waste.
Exactly.
It was, yeah.
It's like really kind of but somebody needs to really.
Like, were you in there before it was even closed to say, I think that's. Yeah. You always walk by thinking, honestly, I could do something with that one.
I think I made an offer to the franchisee, say, hey, listen, I'll take the spot. I had this vision in my head when I was like, a regional manager. I'm like, this spot is an amazing spot. You could do so much.
Yeah. So you've had your eye on it for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
I think financially I wasn't ready, and I'm like,
sure.
I couldn't take that risk because it's a big risk when you're taking into these restaurants.
Absolutely. the upfront cost of the construction alone. Like, walk me through that process. Was it newer for you? How'd you find working with the town of Oakville and all these different bylaws you had to kind of work with?
I think town of Oakville was really straightforward. I already knew because when we were doing the renovation for Baton Rouge, I was really involved in the construction part of it.
Okay.
So I knew, what I needed. The team that I hired for the construction, great company, they did help me out with Baton Rouge when they did the renovation. So I hired them because they did a great job. So we walked step by step, hey, these are the lighting we need. This is the ambience we need. This is the color schemes that we need to do. We hired a designer. So, but the vision was when you walk in, it's like night and day because when you walk in you look at from the outside, it looks like a burger place, a nice logo and everything else. Yeah. And then you walk in and you just open the doors now. It's just like, okay, what's going on here? Like this is very night and day. And I think some of the Wild guests walk in and open doors like, so we're at the right place? It's like, like, what are you looking for? It's like, Wild Wings used to be. I'm like, yes, but we took over and everything else. So I think, and we renovated. So I think, it took us, I'll be honest with you, it took us almost a year with all the, setbacks from constructions and permits and all the, ins and outs, delays from construction. And it was really like almost, I think we took up more than a year. But you know what? Once we finish, it was done right, And there are still little tweaks, I think only the restaurant guy who does kind of had a vision. There are missed spots, but we're actually still in the way of fixing those up a little bit, day by day.
So the official opening was June of this year?
June 20th, yes.
June 20th
we did the official opening.
And let me ask, people are talking about it. It's got a great, you look at the Google reviews that you're doing, I think you're going down the right road that you want to be going down. What are some of the things you're doing to try and promote it? Obviously you've got this long following with Baton Rouge. Are you taking a different approach? I know you've done some mailers and things like that. What are you trying to do to get people to come out to it?
So I think we just did buy one, get one burger, Monday to Friday, the
lunch special, right?
Yeah, the 12 to 3.
Yeah.
And a really good happy hour, 3 to 6, and I think it was a very aggressive offer we did. But at the same time, we're doing, really focusing on social media. I think that is where you can get more of your word out. And I think bringing influencers and everything else. But I think you can never forget that one aspect of the business is guests. Focus on the guests that come in. Because the word of mouth in the guests goes a long way. I kid you not, I could do all social media marketing. I could do a lot of mailers and everything else. But I think that one guest, like, Umair goes out and says, hey, I had a really great experience at Bo.Vine.
Yep.
Goes a long way. I think we right now, currently have more guests coming back. Hey, I heard it from my family friend.
Exactly.
I had a great experience.
Yeah.
And I think
that's the most powerful thing.
Exactly. The credit goes to my staff. And my partner, Robert, and he was a server with me at Baton Rouge because
That's awesome.
So it's like, you know what? Hey, listen, we really need you. I need you to do this.
Yeah.
And why don't you come in with me and get in and you know what? Operate it. And I'll oversee the you're there because I know you know the service. And he's very, very down to little
detail guy.
Yeah, it's a very detail.
You need the detail guy.
I noticed that when he was serving, and I'm like, you know what? This is the guy you need to partner up. Because I've seen partnerships, I kid you not, I've seen partnerships that fall.
Yes.
Bad.
And there too.
So I think that's why I was like, you know what?
You're
Robert,
basically getting married to them, right?
Exactly.
So it's yeah.
So I was like, I'd rather have somebody who completes everything about the business industry, and Robert is the guy, and he's great. We work great together. There's no if and but or anything else. So
is there ever a point where the restaurants? It's a Friday night. There's laughter and happiness. You're in this brand new Bo.Vine restaurant. You and Robert kind of sit back and go, "Yeah, this started with dishes."
You know what? Robert sometimes grabs me in the back. He's like, "You did this to me."
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know what? Yes.
I mean, always at the start of a new restaurant, it's everything you got. You got to put everything into it, right?
Exactly.
It's your life and soul, right?
He's a better bartender, amazing bartender, and he goes behind the bar, and I go, I'm talking to the guests and everything else. So we kind of complete each other.
Yeah.
So, and we sometimes look at it as like, do we really do this right?
Yeah. Where do you see it going? I mean, obviously, there's external factors, economy, there's all these challenges, but it sounds like the resounding thing that you're finding is that if you treat people well, give them a good experience, no matter what the economy is, they're still going to come.
You know what? The economy is a big factor because a lot of people are not going out as much. Everybody's afraid what the next day is going to be like, or next month's going to be. Interest rates are going to go up or down.
Tight. Everyone's tightening really things up. Yeah.
But I think yes, there are certain guests that are still going out, but we just got to make sure when they come in, they have given that value, because a lot of is driven on the value right now.
Yeah.
And I think but the experience, you can give so many big portions, but the food is still not tasting great, or it's never presented right to you. You're not going to have a guest come back. So I think it's just about really balancing every single art in a restaurant industry right now and putting that on a plate and serving it to your guests.
Yeah. Great word. So I think that's going to lead us to the part of the show we call the Robcast Rapid Ask. So I'm going to hit you with a couple questions. I have a feeling I know where the first one's going to go here, but you're on death row, right? This is your last meal. It's just you. What are you asking on that plate?
Depending on which restaurant you're talking about.
No, this is it. You can have anything you want, but what's on that plate?
I like I said, I love burgers. I think
That's what I thought you were going to go with it.
The Bo.Vine smash.
The Bo.Vine smash, yeah.
Exactly. And I think pint of Guinness.
Nice.
Just go with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just, and it's not a filling. Like our burger is no trans fat. Like we're not adding any fat to it. And else is natural Wagyu meat.
We're not promoting the place right now. We're just talking about,
I'm
just joking. Let me ask you this.
Sorry.
Is there someone in your, that, whether they're dead or alive, that you would want to sit down for dinner with and pick their mind?
Whew.
I know that always hits people hard on that one.
I would say, you know what? There are two leaders in my life that have really, really kind of got me into it. Frank Hennessy, he was the CEO of Baton Rouge when a lot of these transitions happened. He's the CEO of Recipe. And Peter Mamis, Foodtastic company that's taken over quite a few new acquisitions recently.
Yeah.
And I worked with these guys. I think they're both great minds. And I think I would say, sitting down with these guys and kind of really pick their brain.
Yeah.
Because if they know a restaurant industry really, really well.
Yeah.
So I think these two guys, one of them for sure, or both of them,
yeah,
in a one room, and me just kind of soaking it all up.
Perfect. Let me ask you this: it's been a long Saturday. Busy. Everything was the both restaurants were turning it out. Everything was great. You get in the car, you're heading home. I mean, usually this is asked during the day on a nice day, but this is probably at 2 a.m. Is there a music or a song that you would put on in the CD player or on the radio that would kind of get you going and pump you up?
Honestly, nothing. I think this is a quiet silence.
Yeah.
I think it's just. I think after the whole. Everything else,
yeah,
I think it's like more of a silent,
calm with the
phone
silence.
Is silent, not talking to anybody, just soaking it in. How bad was it, or how good it was, and everything else. And that 45 minute to an hour
silence is golden.
It is golden.
Last question for you here. Obviously, like in my experience and other people we've talked to, this is a 24/7 operation. Is there somewhere? Do you have a place written down with your wife and somewhere that you want to go in anywhere in the world with your kids? Is there something that you're kind of looking forward to doing if you get that chance? Is there a place you would go?
You know what? The place, I don't think it could be any place. I think as long you're with the kids and the wife, and there's no interruption and no phone calls and, hey, Umair, this happened, it'd be a great time.
Yeah.
I think it's just four of us having a great time, talking, enjoying, no devices, anything else. I think that's the only place.
Yeah. It's really good advice. Umair, a pretty inspiring story. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there have really appreciated the lessons that you've given here. And I appreciate everyone out there watching. And please stay tuned for another episode of the Robcast.